Baby, baby.
Hello friends, it's your boy NotoriousSA, aka Steve Anderson, aka Stuck in Traffic. So, I don't know how many times I've tried to record something and then I get lost, or it doesn't turn out, or the subject matter I'm discussing is no longer really relevant. Things change. I've been thinking about doing January 6th, I've been thinking about expanding a little bit more about local issues, but you know, I'm gonna try to put this one out. I'm gonna do my best to put this out because this is important and it matters. The last time I posted anything on this podcast, I said that I was going to vote for a certain candidate in the Illinois gubernatorial primary. And that person I ended up working for, which is Richard Irvin, and Richard Irvin, A. Reborn in the campaign. I was there for a brief period of time. Obviously, the results of that campaign show that it was not a success. It's more of a catastrophic collapse than anything else. But, you know, that's all I really have to say about my time campaigning. But since that campaign has ended and we've gone into the general election and we're now in October, Darren Bailey, let's be clear, he won outright with 56% of the primary vote. So he's clearly what the Republican Party wanted. You could say that J.B. Pritzker's ad spending helped him out, but really it was just kind of pointing people in a direction they were already going to go. And by the time he got the Trump endorsement, it was already over. You know, it's sad because I personally believe that Mayor Irvin is a good dude who has a bright future, and I believe if the primary had just been in March, he probably would have won on the sheer fact of dominating the ad waves and being the sole person who was able to, you know, do anything in the early months. But obviously as time went on and other actors started getting involved, it's quite clear that, you know, Darren Bailey and that crew is what the Republican Party wants. And you know what? I disagree. I'm not voting for Darren Bailey. I'm not voting for Darren Bailey or his running mate Stephanie Trussell, who was part of a campaign to try to dox me. I'm not voting for Tom DeVore, who is just a terrible human being in general. That whole crowd of people, there's a whole host of Republicans who are on the ballot who I, out of principle, cannot vote for. I will not vote for anybody who seeks to undermine January 6th. I will not vote for people who excuse the harassment of election workers. And I am definitely not going to vote for people who will lie to your face, which is exactly what people like Darren Bailey, Stephanie Trussell, and Tom DeVore will do. They will lie to your face, and then they will go to their home audiences and spread more lies, and that's apparently the Illinois Republican Party circa 2022. That's where we're at now. I'm not happy about it, but hey, what can I do, right? I'm just one guy. I'm just one person who tried to make a difference, and it's very clear that the party I'm a part of, the vast majority of it, all decided to go in a different direction. Frankly, a terrible direction. A bad direction with a bad candidate. Darren Bailey is a bad candidate. And I just want to point this out. Darren Bailey is an anti-Semite, which, considering the fact that he's running against J.B. Pritzker, helped build the Holocaust Museum out here in Skokie. The fact that that someone like Darren Bailey can continue to push anti-Semitic talking points in front of the governor, on stage, in front of the entire Illinois population, it boggles my mind. And of course, he's supported by grifters and Dan Croft and all these other troglodytes out there. But I want to just talk about one particular moment that's very clarifying, right? And it was during the last debate.
Let me play for you a statement you made that's concerned some Illinois voters.
The attempted extermination of the Jews of World War II, it doesn't even compare on a shadow of the life that has been lost and with abortion since its legalization.
You've also said, Senator, that Jewish leaders have told you that you were right. Could you name the Jewish leaders who agree with you? 60 seconds, please.
The atrocity...
Audience, please. Audience.
The atrocity of the Holocaust is beyond parallel. The facts are true when you compare the numbers.
All right, but Senator, name the Jewish leaders who agree with you.
No.
So I'm going to have to look over this, but Darren Bailey, when asked to name the rabbis who told him he was right, and just for context, this is from a 2017 Facebook post, which he said that the horror of abortion in America completely overshadows the Holocaust from World War II in terms of death. And of course, he was rightfully beat up for it. But, now what happens? He gets told what to do by his puppet master profs, and he sits there in his little bubble, and he said, you know what? No, I'm actually right. And he doubles down on it. And then he says that I've talked to rabbis who told me I'm correct, which on multiple requests to answer this question, Darren Bailey has refused. Do you know why he's refused? Because they're not real. Because they're not real rabbis who said that. Because no rabbi would actually say that if the rabbi knew anything about what they were talking about. Period. And again, I'm not Jewish. And I'm not a Christian either. I'm a self-identified secular atheist, but I understand enough about how religions work to know what Darren Bailey doing is anti-Semitic. When Darren Bailey in the debate, when asked to name these people, said that these are parallel tragedies, but when you compare the numbers, I'm right. What he means is that he believes that every abortion in America since 1973 is a murder, is a murdered child. And since there have been, tens of millions of abortions, that number, I've often heard 60 million thrown out there by some people, but who knows. What they were saying is that is a genocide. That the millions of abortions in America, the legal abortions in America, are the equivalent to a genocide that surpasses the Holocaust. Darren Bailey believes that a woman taking Plan B to end a pregnancy, or taking whatever procedure it is to terminate the pregnancy, is the equivalent of gassing a child in a gas chamber. He believes in his heart, in his mind, at his core, that those are one-to-one comparisons. At that very basic level, that is a disqualifying factor from his current public office, nonetheless being the governor of this state. That alone means he is unable to be trusted to faithfully execute the laws of this great country and this great state. The fact is that if you look into his history, he has a problem with anti-Semitism. The churches he attends, the sending Christian Christmas cards to people he knows who are Jewish, who do not celebrate these holidays. And again, I don't know why I should mention this again, but just to be clear, he is saying that abortion in America is worse than the Holocaust. The organized destruction and mass murder of not just Jewish people, but, other ethnic minorities as well. He's saying that legal abortion in America is worse. That there's way more death because of that than because of the Holocaust. I don't know how much clearer of an anti-Semitic statement you could make. I do not know how one could stand there and say, you know what? Legal abortion is the equivalent of the Holocaust in terms of murders. Or that it's actually greater because the number of abortions is greater than the number of people murdered in the Holocaust. Which again, that entire frame of reference, that entire frame of understanding of human life and dignity and the laws should tell you something that this ignorant hillbilly fuck from Southern Illinois should go back to Southern Illinois and stay there being the ignorant hillbilly fuck that he is. He is not capable of running the executive branch of the 5th largest state in the country. Okay? By his own personal design and beliefs, he is unqualified to be in charge. I really wish this had come out earlier. I really wish that the urban campaign had actually found that instead of creating this he's actually a never Trumper nonsense that they did. I wasn't there when they did that, but it backfired spectacularly. And it's part of the reason Darren Bailey is where he is. This whole thing, this whole election in which, despite misstep after misstep, lie after lie, and terrible campaign advice all the way down, you still have people out there defending him. You still have people lying about the safety and the pretrial fairness acts in terms of what they do. Dan Proft, chiefly. You have people and his followers in Awake Illinois and your anti-COVID, anti-vaccine, election denier groups hoping to get on the ballot to be on school boards and library boards and trustees in the next off-year election. And let's be clear, Darren Bailey is a puppet to Dan Proft. And Darren Bailey is going to lose, which Dan Proft knows he will. But he has to keep acting like it's competitive to keep making money from Uline for his people who play by the rules pack, with heavy air quotes on people who play by the rules. Irony at its finest. The bigger picture is that after Darren Bailey loses, which of course he will, after Tom DeVore loses, and most of our other candidates lose, Dan Proft, Awake Illinois, the people who play by the rules pack, and most likely Darren Bailey, who is a good chance will claim the election was stolen from him, will start to push onto the local boards. Will start to go into races where turnout is much lower in the hopes that they can install their people in places to cause as much damage as possible. I'm truly amazed that people that I know, people I respect or respected, people who I have seen make rational arguments before, people who I know don't subscribe to crazy nonsense, either now subscribe to the crazy or tolerate the crazy to the point where they push out rational people like me. People who know people like Darren Bailey shouldn't be in charge of an Arby's, nonetheless the Illinois governor's mansion. And you know what? He runs a farm, so if I ever had a question about soil, I'd probably ask Darren Bailey, because I assume he knows something about soil. He's obviously a farmer, whatever. I'm not part of that. I don't care. What he doesn't understand is that abortion is not the same thing as the Holocaust. The fact that he thinks those two are even close at all, in any capacity, should tell you to not vote for him. You know what, folks? This is a exclusive that you're getting here on the NotoriousSA podcast that I've discussed privately with people, but I now feel confident to say publicly. I'm voting for J.B. Pritzker. As someone who helped with the, not in an official capacity, but through my township and other Republican organizations, tried to help Bruce Rauner and helped other Republican candidates in 2016 and 2018, and other local candidates in different races. I'm not a fan of J.B. Pritzker, of everything he's done. There are some things I'm totally okay with. Legal weed, all down for it. Denouncing the insurrectionists, all down for it. Some of his personal stuff and some of the policies that have been provided here, you know, you can disagree with on a reasonable level. But the fact of the matter is that I didn't choose this. The Republican Party decided that they would rather pick an anti-Semite as their nominee and then try to make me the bad guy for going against it. Mind you, going back to the 2018 campaign, the same people, the same Jeannie Ives supporters who called us baby killers for voting for Bruce Rauner, now, who are all in on Bailey, talk about unity. And they talk about understanding and trying to get together to tackle things, while they say lies about the 2020 election and promote threatening election workers and all other sorts of garbage that comes out. And it's disgusting. It is disgusting what people on the ballot who asked for my vote have said and continue to say. They act like they're adults and they're awake and not woke, but they just repeat the same bullshit nonsense that we've been hearing for years. They talk about their election conspiracy theories. They talk about their vaccine conspiracy theories. They talk about all this nonsense. They call people who just want to help transgender people groomers and pedophiles while defending actual groomers and pedophiles. They're the type of people who call you a cuck while Donald Trump is having sex with their wife. And they say you're the cuck. And they're thrilled that Donald Trump is having sex with their wife. But they're not a cuck in this scenario, because they're cool with it. You the guy who's not letting Donald Trump have sex with your wife, you're the cuck. Do you see how insane that sounds when you say it out loud? Do you see how crazy that sentence is? But that's a fundamental belief now among a large amount of people in my party. Which, yeah, I'm still here. You're not going to push me out that easy. And I still plan on voting for several Republican candidates. Even if they're not going to win, I know if they did win that they would represent a rational choice and would probably be good people in Washington. But there are certain people who I will not vote for. Darren Bailey is not getting my votes. Stephanie Trussell, also the running mate for him, definitely not getting my vote. Because again, she is a whole other host of problems. And again, shared a post trying to dox me and telling people to harass me. So, Stephanie Trussell, this is a personal message from me. You can get fucked. That's from the heart. Tom DeVore called special needs children window lickers, and then when called out on it, sued the people who called him that, because he's that type of petty, terrible person, and a person who frankly abuses the court system. Shouldn't be anywhere near the Attorney General's office. He's got his own host of issues, so feel free. And I will likely put links in the description about all this stuff, about all these people. I really cannot, in good conscience, sit here and let the people I know, whom I respect, in many cases, believe that for any way, shape, or form it is okay to support Darren Bailey. It is not. And they can say that makes me a bad Republican or whatever else they want to say. I call bullshit on all of it. They want to lie. They want to spread nonsense about me. They want to spread lies in general, but then defend Donald Trump, the chief liar of them all. And even Darren Bailey, who was more than happy to spread lies about election fraud in the primary, now he's changed his tune, and all of a sudden Joe Biden is the legitimately elected president of the United States, which is quite the change from what it was before. This whole terrible pivot where now all of a sudden you're much more accommodating about abortion. Chicago's not a hellhole, it's just a problem child, and I'm going to work with the General Assembly. It's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. Because Darren Bailey is a bullshitter. Darren Bailey is the type of person to loudly proclaim how Christian he is and then show you how he will violate all his own principles, quote unquote, to live by in the pursuit of power. They live in their online Facebook group bubbles where they sell each other nonsense. They are promoted by right-wing media, which is essentially Dan Proft and his fake newspapers. It is, without a doubt, beyond a shadow of a doubt, Darren Bailey is the worst GOP nominee, gubernatorial nominee, I think, ever in the history of Illinois politics. In the history of the Illinois Republican Party, for sure. But I would put him up there in the history of Republican or politics in general. He does not speak well. He does not answer questions well. He's obviously a liar. He's obviously engages in anti-Semitism. Him and Mary Miller and Chris Miller and this crowd of people who revel in their ignorance while living off of my taxpayer money. Mind you, these people live in a place where they get all the state tax dollars and we, up here in this region, get none of the stuff we send back, or we get less money than we send out. And you know what? Perhaps that is our fortune for being economically developed. And there are lots of places in southern Illinois that have fallen on hard times. Southern and central Illinois, full of good people. I've traveled, I've met many of these people. I've met in these communities. You know, for a lot of them, they lived a life where they had the factory in town, and then the factory left. That story's played out all over America, and it's happened in Illinois too. And the farther south you go, outside of your college towns and other places, big industrial areas that are not Chicago and the color counties have suffered over the years. You can see this in our census data. The population growth has been in the suburbs around Chicago, and a little bit around Chicago itself. Not a whole lot, but if you break it down by neighborhood, there are places that have gained and places that have lost. But the fact of the matter is that the Illinois Republican Party is pushing its structure to the place where there's less people and less voters. Right? They are actively moving away from where most of what's happening is happening. And they're choosing to pick Darren Bailey and Stephanie Trussell. They're choosing to pick the most obscure, obnoxious, wrong people imaginable to try to win the nomination. And it's trash. It's just trash. Darren Bailey is a trash candidate. Stephanie Trussell is a trash candidate. Tom DeVore is a trash candidate. Right off the bat. Those three statewide nominees are trash. They do not deserve a vote. Period. You can say what you want about Kwame or J.B. Pritzker or whoever our current lieutenant governor is. Sorry, I've lost track. I don't have it in front of me right now. But almost by default, they're better choices because this clown show that is currently the GOP ticket is not doing any of us favors. In a year in which people should be cleaning up in response to the rough poll numbers from Biden and disagreement with COVID and the lockdowns and all that. Instead of putting rational people up that can make the arguments, they put up a bunch of ignorant, loud, abrasive people who revel in their loud, abrasive ignorance. You can't tell them they're ignorant. They'll wear it as a sign of pride. But they are. They're ignorant. Darren Bailey is ignorant. Stephanie Trussell is ignorant. Tom DeVore is ignorant. They're all ignorant. That's the best compliment I have for them, is that they're ignorant. So I'm voting for J.B. Pritzker. I'm voting for Kwame Raoul. Daily Herald agrees with me. Chicago Tribune agrees with me. I'm sure other papers out there will. The fact is, I didn't make the Republican Party like this. Other people did. And you know what? I'm the minority. I get that. I've been the minority since Trump became the nominee. But I really thought at the local and state level, there were enough serious people here who wanted to make a difference that we could actually try to make a difference. Especially in a year where they're trying to actively fill slots on ballots that have been left empty over years, which is a good thing. But they do it in this year with the worst possible people on top of the ticket, which will drag everybody else down. No matter how many seats you fill, if the top half is embarrassing, it will ruin it for everyone else. That is just the way it is. These are just facts. It is so exhausting to think about this. It is so mind-numbing to try to process that the majority of voters in a large scale picked the most ignorant anti-Semite in the field to be our nominee. It's crap. It's fucking crap. They're gonna lose. They're gonna lose bad. And I'll be there to say I told you so. I don't care. There's a lot of bad faith actors out there who think that they're always trying to scheme and move and always try to one-up and double down. And even when they look like total assholes and they're wrong and there's no strategic point, they just want to be contrarians because that's the culture they're in. It is this culture of being ignorant and wrong and reveling in being ignorant and wrong. And then when pointed out that you're ignorant and wrong, celebrate it. It is truly, and this is raw. Normally I try to write something out. I'm literally just in my car. Snap popping off because I can't. And you know what? I haven't done a podcast in a long time. I could probably do something more detailed going forward. And if anybody out there is listening and they missed me, I really appreciate it. I'm glad that you stuck around this long. If you're a Republican in Illinois listening to me, you have a choice. You do not have to debase yourself by voting for people of the lowest caliber because they have an R next to their name. And you know what? Depending on where you live, you probably have a shitty R in your local spots too, as I do here. The fact that my state rep candidate sucks and I don't even have a state senate candidate to vote for should tell you that this whole plan to fill out the ballot didn't really matter if all of your candidates are bad. And your messaging is bad. And you all continue to surround yourselves and wrap yourselves around Donald Trump, a person that this state does not like and has never liked and has never wanted. And the longer you associate with him, the worse it's going to be. And you would think if they lose Senate seats and governor's seats and House seats and state House seats and state Senate seats, and even down to your local township trustee levels, you would think there's gotta be a reason this keeps happening, and of course it's because Donald Trump is poison. And the Republican Party of the state decided to jump in to the poison because they're afraid of their base voters. They're afraid of angry, ignorant people being loud and ignorant. Guess what? Tell them to fuck off. Tell them they are fucking wrong. Say it to their face. Because the longer you let them revel in their ignorance and stupidity, the longer they think that everyone agrees with them and this is the correct way to be. This is the correct way to run a campaign. It's not. It's not at all. It's trash. Moral of the story, don't vote for Darren Bailey. Don't vote for Stephanie Trussell. Don't vote for Tom DeVore. Don't vote for anti-Semites. Don't vote for election deniers. Don't vote for vaccine deniers. Don't vote for crazy, stupid people because they happen to have the political party you're with next to their name. Or even if you agree on some things. If you know for a fact this person should not be in charge of a restaurant, or you wouldn't let them watch your kid or date a family member, they should not be in a position of political power. Period. It's a short one for me, guys, gals, and the non-binary, whoever's listening out there. I appreciate it. I'm going to try to get this up as soon as I can. Like, share, tweet, retweet. I'm not on True Social. I'm not on TikTok. Don't worry about those. But, you know, if you ever have any questions, or hey, if anybody's listening to this and wants to challenge me and prove that Darren Bailey is not an anti-Semite and that Stephanie Trussell doesn't suck, by all means. The email's there. NotoriousSA podcast at gmail.com. There's the Facebook page. There's the Twitter. There's all that stuff. There's all that stuff if you ever want to disagree with me. By all means, go ahead and do so. But the fact of the matter is, Darren Bailey is an anti-Semite, and you shouldn't vote for him. That's the word of the day from me. Take care, everybody.